Hi everyone, good morning. I'm here coming to you on Sunday morning in my Sunday best. I've just been out walking the dog, and it seems like when I go out and walk the dog, I have all kinds of interesting insights. I have a neighbor that lives next door, and she screams and shouts at her dog every time they come outside. I think they've gone back in. Anyway, I have not yet done my daily draw. And because this was fresh in my mind, I wanted to bring it up. So yesterday, I started doing my daily draws with the New Earth Tarot, which is this lovely round deck. I just did a review of it that I'm still editing. I could talk about this deck at great length. It's really, really deep and very interesting. This is significant for so many reasons, not least of which is that I've never gotten the Empress card. Ever. She doesn't come up in my personal readings for myself or readings that others have done for me. She's never come up in my daily draws. So yesterday I began wondering, is that a result of a new deck that wants to communicate with me differently about things? Because certainly I've noticed some very great differences in the way that this deck is communicating with me, and in really really exciting ways. Actually, I'm very geeked about it. But usually this would be more likely to be the archetype brought out, or given to me by a deck, or some other. And even then, decks don't usually feel the need to tell me, hey, this is the archetype, that you hold, right? This is your archetypal position. It's my birth card. And honestly, the more I've spent time reflecting on these two female archetypes, right, since January, since I really started looking at tarot as archetype, and really examining birth year and birth card archetypal connections and so on, the more I've recognized that I spent the vast majority of my life with these two archetypes in conflict with one another within myself. So I can explain. This is an archetype that society worships and loves, right? It's Venus. It is female fertility. The Empress holds everything in her that we regard as acceptable, desirable. It's what kind of expectation we hold of women. All of that is held in the Empress, right? She is our ideal. She's our ideal. And I feel like the more time that we have spent away from organized religion, and specifically any kind of goddess worship, as I guess in humanity in general, the more and more power we give to this archetype, and yet the more and more power we take away from it. And that's that's a lot. That's a lot to throw at you. I can kind of attempt to unpack that a little bit. Let's put it this way. Because my background is acting and theater, that's probably a good one. The more in life that I moved towards this, right, towards acting, towards theater, towards finding a way to embody this archetype, the more I suffered. The more and more I suffered. I wanted so badly to be accepted, to be loved, to embody the archetype that everyone sees as being, the most lovable, the most desirable, etc. And I really fought. She's pregnant. She's going to have a baby. She is a mother. She is sexual. She's beautiful. She's desirable. And she's just a little bit otherworldly. There's a really brilliant, and I maybe will link it. There's a brilliant documentary on YouTube, and you can watch just the Empress, or you can watch any one of the Major Arcana, or you can watch all of them, because he's got it divided up, in separately for each, a separate video for each card, or he's got it, as an entire thing. Robert Bonomo made a fabulous documentary about this, and in that documentary, he really talks about different women who have personified, and different characters in film and so on who have personified the Empress. And when I watched that, I thought, I was really, really heavily watching it in January. I thought, wow, that was that conflict for me. Because as soon as I held something that required me to go closer to this, okay, either as a medium or a yoga teacher or a tarot reader or eventually as a movement teacher, and eventually then as a director, as a professor, I was getting closer. I was having better, I would have better luck because I was getting closer and closer to this particular archetype. She's not gonna, this is not an archetype that is likely to ever have a baby. Her purpose is not, her purpose isn't to do that. Her purpose is to guard the gate. Her purpose is to hold middle ground. Her purpose is wisdom, insight. It's very, very different. It's very different. So within me, the desire to be this and the reality of being closer to this have been very interesting. This is also not an archetype that we like. We don't like women that are powerful. We are uncomfortable as a society in general with women who choose not to have children or who are unchilded or unmarried. Even when I went back into religion, and wanted to ordain as a monastic, I really struggled. It was because I wasn't willing to occupy that place in this way, right? I wasn't willing to have a more, I don't know how to describe it. I can tell you for sure that it was what I experienced and how I felt. I think that's fair. Whereas with this, the more I held a position of middle ground that was very steady and stable and reflected my own wisdom, the more and more uncomfortable the men who ran the orders there were two, in fact, that I attempted to be a part of, really could not, the level of conflict kept going up and up and up. And I certainly played my part in that, but it was like, wow, why, if I'm acting from a place of integrity, and I'm really doing my best, my utmost to follow the practice, follow the instruction, etc. Why is this conflict coming up? And it's a conflict I've had as well. Anytime I've attempted to be in a position of like any kind of authority. So, as a professor, that's a position of authority, until the last job I had, where really most of the time, I think I was just that much more aware of finding grace and ease and comfort in this archetype. It was not conscious, I should say that too. It was not a conscious decision. It was just the reality of how things were in that job. And again, like the more and more in life that I tried to do this, the more prone personally, the more prone to abuse, the more prone to just disappointment. You know, those who were willing to believe like, oh, maybe she is, you know, maybe this is the archetype we're getting from her, right? Whether it was a partner or a director, you know, that the minute that they would find out that like it was an eclipse, like, uh-oh, what's this? Here she comes. Oh no. It's the Pythia. Watch out. She'll bite. The more they would get that from me, the less likely, you know, the more prone there would be like, I guess the more tendency there would be for abuse to come out, you know, like, no, you can't. You cannot have this power. And look, we've already established in our society that we want this, but we're not going to allow it to have any kind of power. So be this, but then be willing to be pushed around by the emperor. I get to dominate you. Whereas the magician and the high priestess don't have that relationship, right? Very interesting stuff. I could talk at length about it, or I could just throw that out there. It's really interesting stuff. So I also wanted to say, in my confusion about like, why would the Empress be coming up? You know, is there something that I need to heal? Is there, because I've done a lot of healing work without calling it the Empress, but my own inner Empress who, as an archetype and as a part, ended up, you know, having to find a way to recover, right, from all of that abuse. Because I think all women, you know, all of us hold this. All of us are this. This is who we are. And I would say, too, that we are all this as well. You know, we hold all of these archetypes. There are some that are probably, you know, more likely, like this is there, but really she's not my whole purpose. You know, what archetypal filter is intended clearly in my life to come through and guide me, you know, with regards to career and the way in which I present myself in the world is much more this, I think, for so many reasons. Like when I look at astrology in my chart, when I look at numerology, all of it, it all comes together. So I had this little moment last night while I was cooking dinner, funnily enough, and realized, oh yeah, I know exactly why this particular card came up yesterday. And she came up yesterday because I went out in the afternoon, and it was sort of an impromptu, unexpected, like, hey, let's have a quick catch up. The friend that I've been covering for at the pottery studio just told me yesterday that she's going to have a baby. She's going to be a mom. So that's what this was about. It was about my friend Amy saying, hey, I'm going to be a mom, and I want you to be one of the first people to know that this is going to happen. So that was really, it was unexpected. I had no way of knowing that that was going to happen yesterday, and I did not make that connection. That was at like 4:00 yesterday. I didn't make the connection until about like 9:00 last night. Suddenly went, oh my gosh, that's what that was. Then I realized this is the deck that was made by a woman who is a potter. And it is a deck that I bought with the money that Amy gave me, or rather the gift card that Amy gave me, as a thank you for running the studio while she's away doing Reiki and Reiki training. How wild is that? That's just so weird. I just could not believe. Like, the sheer number of synchronous events around that. But I thought it was so cool and so fascinating that I had to share it. So, thank you. More another time. All right, guys. Later. Thank you for watching.